This channel is made possible by viewers like you. My viewers, subscribers, and patrons greatly help to keep this channel going. I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for all of you. Please make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any uploads. And if you'd like to go the extra mile, please check out my Patreon page. For just $1 a month, you'll get access to what I'm working on, previews of upcoming content, and even early videos, along with other tier options for those that are interested. Thank you, and now on to the video. Atlas Fallen is an action RPG title that feels kinda like a throwback game in some ways. The game does have its fair share of flaws and areas to improve on, but I think it does a really good job with its combat and open world. Fighting enemies and exploring these big spaces is where I got the most entertainment out of this game. There's a good amount of personalization and customization when it comes to how you operate in the combat sequences. This is definitely a title that I hope gets a sequel because there is a lot here that I like, and it builds a pretty good foundation that I think with more time, the developers could really make something great. Atlas Fallen really does shine in two areas, exploration and combat. This developer has a history of making Souls-like experiences, so this new game is a departure from that, and honestly a pleasant surprise in some ways. It honestly feels like a throwback title like an action-adventure game from a generation ago. There's little elements from the older God of War games, Darksiders, and even a bit of Amalur. In a market where the Souls genre has become very dominant, it is a bit refreshing to have a title like this one, where it is more traditional in its approach. Plus, if you're gonna have an open world, you need to have a fun way to move within that space. And thankfully, sand surfing is exactly that. So let's break down some of the combat. You have two weapons equipped at any time. Each weapon is given their own button, and you can switch between them seamlessly while in a fight. The action is all centered around the momentum system. As you hit an enemy, you will build up a meter. As it grows, you'll do more damage. The trade-off is that your enemies can also do more damage to you as well. There are some elements here that make this very interesting too. For example, the momentum meter has 3 sections. You can slot a set of abilities and passives within each section. These are then applied to your character once you fill that section. The more devastating moves are saved for the final section. There are a lot of abilities and passives to mix and match with. You could go all out on your attack and really become a glass cannon. Or maybe you want to take a more balanced approach and improve your defense as your momentum grows to compensate for enemies being able to do more damage to you. Or maybe you are like me and need a little more help, so you equip all the ones that improve and provide healing. The momentum system adds an interesting dynamic to the fighting. You are trying to build it up so that you can essentially dish out more to your enemies, along with activating passives that can greatly assist you. Then you are managing it so you're not in a position where the enemies are completely overpowering you. And on top of this, you can unleash it all at once to do more damage. For defense, you have your evade and parry. If you time your parry just right, you'll stun the enemy. I was never really good at getting this down, so I relied heavily on the healing and evading. There's some fun moves that you can do as well, like how your whips can pull you towards an enemy, and then when you combine that with your double jump and air dashes, you can complete an entire fight without ever touching the ground. Now the other area the game does well is its exploration. Moving within this space is fun with the sand surfing, along with some of the platforming you'll have. Some areas are pretty vertical, and I never got tired of my air dashes. I do think that both of these areas could have been a bit more refined to improve the speed of switching from jump, dash, and then sand surfing. I also think there should have been some type of race elements with the surfing. The open areas are fun as you discover new quests to complete, items to find, hard enemies to defeat, among many other side activities. You have seen much of this before, but I think it's done pretty well here. As you progress, you'll find new armors, level them up, unlock and upgrade new passives, along with other upgrades. Again, like I discussed with the combat, there's a good amount of personalization when it comes to how you set up your character and how they are in the combat. Story-wise, I really couldn't get into this one. It's pretty serviceable, and I was more entertained by the combat and exploration. Now, the game does have 2-player online, but sadly I was unable to try it. In theory, I think this would greatly enhance the game. If you did play this in co-op, let me know your experiences with it in the comments. Atlas Fallen has a decent amount of flaws and areas to improve on. I really enjoyed the open world sections of the game, but I do think that quests should have been more involved. For the most part, most quests have you killing something or retrieving it, but the game needs to essentially pretty these up a bit more. I think there are some potential options for this. For one, you can keep the quests sort of formulaic like this, but then dress them up with an interesting tale that stays with the player. Maybe we get involved and invested with some side characters, and they pop up with their quests around the map. It could even be the same actions like kill this or collect that, but dress them up with a more substantial story. The other option is to make the quests more involved from a gameplay standpoint. Maybe what starts out as a traditional fetch quest turns into something else that we are not expecting from a gameplay standpoint. Another option is to have some side quests feature impactful choices, again adding more dramatic weight to them. To clarify, it isn't that the side quests are bad as they are presented, but it feels like they could be a lot more. Something else I want to discuss is how the armor and leveling is done. So your level is tied to your armor's level. Each of the armor sets have some interesting buffs, but you are pretty much going to want to go with the one that has the highest level, as that will usually give you the best base stats. This means that you are essentially forced to use certain armors at points in the game. You can visually change your armor, which is nice, but I would like to keep the armor specific passives for my playstyle rather than rely on the power level number. I think something should be done to improve this area of the game. Now, Atlas Fallen has its fair share of jank that needs fixing. I was going through the ground and objects at a regular rate as I explored. Sometimes the camera would even mess up with me. I had one instance where it would just hug the back of my character and would go nuts if I tried to move it at all. These are easier fixes and will probably come with more patches. Again, I like a lot of what this game provides, but I think it could have been refined further. Atlas Fallen is a fun game. It is flawed while also being underrated as well. I think when you are within the open world sections, exploring, finding items, completing quests, and battling monsters, this is all good stuff. Plus the sand surfing never gets old, and is a fun way to move around the map, along with some of the vertical options with the platforming. The combat and exploration are both rather good. Much of the other stuff in the game could use some more refinement. Honestly, I would like to see the studio get another crack at this gameplay style, or even in an Atlas Fallen sequel. Take what they have learned here and really better it. This is a fun game and one I would recommend, just maybe on a sale. Have you played Atlas Fallen? If so, what are your thoughts on it? Let me know all of this in the comments down below. If you're interested in being notified of new videos, please hit the subscribe button and bell. And if you would like to support the channel and get early access to content, please check out my Patreon. All of the links will be at the end of this video and within the description. And thank you very much for watching.